Welcome back, family. It's your girl Chanel, and today I'm going to show you how I get this little short, cute pink style.
Suede on the trail.
I'm using this Model 1-pack solution, and it's in the style Perfect Water Deep. And you already know how I feel about my 98-cent wave caps. Yes, if you don't know the story behind that, you can go back to my very first video where I explained how I ended up using these wave caps instead of the regular wig caps. So if you haven't heard the story, go back to my first video where I installed my long pink hair. So I'm putting on both of my caps. And then you're going to see me look for my leave out. I'm only leaving out that front area. And I decided to push the top cap, back behind my leave out, just so that I can easily distinguish where I need to glue my tracks. And now I'm going to sew down the caps to my braids. Now you're going to see me start to measure, cut, glue my tracks onto my head.
I'm running out of time, running round in circles and I'm lost. So now I need to break away. I can feel it as you take away the pain. And if you feel me, throw your hands in the air. If you're searching for the place to find rest, yeah. Nobody in here is special when we all break down, yeah. Cause when it all falls, all falling down, that's when I'll find my life in you.
I continue laying my tracks in a U shape until I got to the top of my head, and then I started to take short pieces and glue them down in the middle of that U shape. Horizontally, I just glued pieces all the way down until I had about an inch left. At this point, to help speed up the process a little bit, since I'm going to be using the same size track going all the way down about 4 to 5 pieces, I'm just going to keep measuring out that track and just cut 4 to 5 extra more pieces so that I can just glue and lay them down. So now that I've laid all of my tracks horizontally all the way down until I had about an inch left, now I'm going to start to lay my tracks vertically all the way across. Again, to speed up the process, I'm going to pre-cut those little pieces so that I can just glue and lay them down. So I'm going to lay those tracks all the way across, and they're going to be in the same direction. So this is going to create more volume on one side of my head than the other. as you can see with my last track I laid down, I just closed in that gap between that first track and the very last track. And what I'm doing now, because I don't like how wide that gap is, and I don't like those tracks showing, even though I'm going to have leave out, that's like a big space to me of tracks. So I cut off the weft of one of the tracks so it can just be loose hairs, and I laid down some glue, and I'm just putting small pieces of those hairs right up against where you see where those two tracks meet. And I want to just kind of cover those tracks up, so if you do see anything through my leave out, it won't be so apparent that tracks are there. So by gluing down those small pieces of hair, I achieved two things. I was able to cover up the wefts of those tracks, those two tracks that met together. And also it gave me a little more volume in that area. It's not as much of a gap as it was. So I have a little more volume in that area. And now, of course, all of the hairs are not going to stick onto the glue. So I'm just pulling out those hairs that did not stick to the glue, so that your hair doesn't have to be falling out randomly on other days. So just go ahead and kind of pull through that to pull out those hairs that did not stick to the glue. And now I'm just going to cut off my cap carefully so that I can expose my leave out. down, I'm spraying down my leave out with water so that it can revert back to its natural curly state. And if you see any like brownish residue around my forehead, that's because I had used previously, before I had did this style, I had my hair kind of like back in a ponytail, and I used some of this Edge Booster by Style Factor, and this one is in dark brown, so you can see the actual gel is a brown color. And I was just experimenting with it. It was on sale at my beauty supply store, so I just picked it up. It was only $2.99. Versus when you saw my first video with the long pink hair, you saw that I had picked up one of them and it was $4.99. So I picked up 2 more when I went back to my beauty supply because they only had a few left, and they have reduced the price to $2.99. And I'm going to put some mousse on it to attempt to tame down some of those little frizzies. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Exodus chapter 14 verse 14 declares, "The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm."